everyone, welcome back to Anne Talks. Today we'll be talking about a very important topic. It's called burnout. In a world that never sleeps, where hustle is glorified and productivity is paramount, there's a silent epidemic sweeping through workplaces everywhere. It's called burnout. From corporate executives to frontline workers, burnout doesn't discriminate. It affects people from all walks of life, leaving a trail of exhaustion, disillusionment, and shattered dreams in its wake. So, the reason why I want to talk about burnout, and I think that it's a very important topic to discuss about, is because a lot of people don't openly talk about it. They often just keep it to themselves. They either have no one to talk to about it, no one to listen to their problems, no one to listen to what they're struggling with, because they feel like they're a burden. And I'm here for you, and I want to talk to you about burnout because I personally am going through burnout, and I've gone through this rodeo a couple of times now. So why is it important to talk about burnout? I believe that talking about burnout will create awareness and recognition to the world, and it will inspire individuals that everyone goes through it. Usually when we have signs and symptoms about burnout, we don't recognize it until it's too late. I want people to understand that burnout is normal and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to tell people that you're not okay. And oftentimes you feel like you don't have anyone to turn to, or you feel like talking about burnout is not a good idea for your friends because it's a sign of weakness and no one's there to listen to you. But I'm here. I'm here to listen to you, to understand, and I'm going to share with you my own personal experience through burnout. The first factor I'll talk about is lack of control. The lack of control plays a significant role in our lives, which actually is one of the main factors of burnout. When we don't have any say in, let's say, workplace or in your family or whatever relationship that you're going through, these factors actually create frustration, makes you feel helpless, and eventually all these emotions lead to burnout. I understand that a lot of people can't control their jobs, they can't control their lives because there's always someone looming over their lives. That's normal, and sadly that's the world we live in. But the question is, why do people not recognize this factor, that they're not talking about it and they're just giving reckless amount of jobs and not really considering how is the well-being of my employees? How is my friends' well-being? How is my family's well-being? People don't usually think about that because all they care about is themselves. And that's just the world we live in, which is very horrible and sad. So I want to talk about workplace as an example for a lack of control, because I feel like everyone here right now watching this video is probably going through a part-time job, looking for a part-time job, or perhaps even they have a full-time job. And let me illustrate to you how burnout can exist in a workplace. One example of how lack of control contributes to burnout is micromanagement within the workplace. When employees are constantly monitored, scrutinized, and directed in minute detail by their superiors, it sends a message that their skills, judgment, and expertise are not trusted. This can create a stifling environment where employees feel suffocated and disempowered, unable to take ownership of their own work or make meaningful contributions. For instance, imagine a scenario where a marketing team is tasked with launching a new advertising campaign. Despite having a talented and experienced team, the manager micromanages every aspect of the project, from the design of the ad creatives to the wording of social media posts. The team members feel like their ideas are dismissed, their creativity is stifled, and their professional judgment is undermined. As a result, they become demotivated, disengaged, and increasingly prone to burnout. Moreover, a lack of control can extend beyond micromanagement to broader organizational structure and policies. For example, when employees have limited flexibility in their work hours, little say in their job assignments, or are subjected to rigid hierarchical structures, it can create a sense of powerlessness and disconnection. This lack of control over one's own work life can exacerbate stress and contribute to burnout. over time. Addressing the issue of lack of control in the workplace requires fostering a culture of trust, empowerment, and autonomy in the workplace. The next factor I'd like to talk about is lack of support and recognition. So how does this influence burnout? It's basically, it doesn't exist only in the workplace, like, oh, my manager's not hearing me, not seeing me. No, it exists in your family, your friends, your relationships, or even your community. These factors, these little tiny factors, basically the people that you're associated with, actually contributes to the lack of support and recognition. And this is a factor of burnout. How you might ask, like, why is this a factor of burnout? Well, when it comes to family and friends, they often go to you for like advice, like, or they need help with something, and you're always there for them no matter what. You're always there to give them advice. You're always give them hope, and then encourage them that, yeah, definitely I'll help you no matter what. I'm always there for you. But then when you need help and you need support, they're not there for you. And they're often busy, and they're often like, oh, I can't do that right now. That leads to burnout. People are not hearing you. People are not understanding you. People are not giving time to hear you out because they're busy. That leads to burnout. So remember that the type of person that's trying to seek for advice, the type of person who needs advice or who's actually opening up to you, and you're not hearing them properly, you are contributing to their emotional well-being. You're contributing to their burnout without even realizing it. Not only that, also if your opinions are very stereotypical or advice are very stereotypical, when they give you their own personal experience, their own personal advice, they're gonna feel like talking to you was useless. And not only that, it's like, I'll never talk to anyone about it ever again because the advice is literally the most common advice in this entire universe. So why should I open up to you when I can just ask the internet for advice? You're gonna say the exact same basic advice to that person. Leads to their burnout. So you have to be careful on what you say to someone, how much attention you're giving someone, and who you're pouring out your emotions to. You know, these type of factors exist, and it has happened to me, which is why I'm telling you that be careful on who you share your problems with, because sometimes their advice is very, very stereotypical, and it actually just makes me feel worse about myself. So be careful. So aside from your friends, your families, community is so important. People don't recognize that having a lack of support or recognition in your community is actually very dangerous, because one thing about community is that they will stereotype you based on your ethnicity, based on your religion, based on how you act. They will stereotype you. And if you think like they're not, because they're not telling it to your face, they're doing it behind your back. And they often give you advice linked to your stereotype. And that leads to burnout. That leads to you feeling emotionally drained and not heard, because you're different. Everyone's different. We may have the same religion, we may have the same ethnicity, but we don't have the same problems. We don't have the same lifestyle. We don't have the same personalities. Everyone is unique in their own way. And the way that they're like hearing your advice and they're giving you very stereotypical advice again, you're like, why am I talking to you? Like, they're like, oh, because you're this ethnicity, that's why you're like this. I've known so many people that have that ethnicity and they're going through the same problem as you. No. That is the most useless advice you can give someone. It's not okay. If you think that's helping them, like, oh yeah, other people from your ethnicity is going through it, like, you'll be able to get through it. Honey, that's not what we want to hear. We want to hear helpful advice that's purely shared with your love for that person, your care for that person. Because if you don't show care and love for your friend or in that community, you're literally just making them feel degraded. And they'll feel like, no matter what I say, I'll always be ignored and not heard. So one common example of lack of recognition and support in personal relationships is when individuals feel that their efforts, emotions, or contributions are not acknowledged or appreciated by their partners, family members, or friends. For instance, imagine someone who consistently goes out of their way to support their family during difficult times, yet their own struggles are often brushed aside or overlooked. Over time, this can lead to feelings of resentment and emotional exhaustion as the individual begins to question the reciprocity and authenticity of their relationships. Similarly, a lack of recognition and support can manifest in social circles or communities where individuals feel marginalized, misunderstood, or excluded. This can occur in various contexts, such as cultural, religious, or interest-based communities, where individuals may not feel validated or accepted for who they are or who or what they believe in. For example, someone may feel isolated and unsupported with the religious community if their beliefs or lifestyle choices deviate from their norm, leading to a sense of disconnection and alienation. Moreover, lack of recognition and support can also extend to societal structures and institutions where certain groups or individuals may face systematic barriers, discrimination, or neglect. This can be particularly evident in marginalized communities where access to resources, opportunities, and social support may be limited or non-existent. For instance, individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds may feel invisible or overlooked by society, leading to a deep sense of disfranchisement and hopelessness. The next factor I'll talk about is poor work-life balance. It is a very common factor that people talk about when it comes to burnout. However, I just want to share with you my own experience with poor work-life balance. And I'm telling you, I don't have a good work-life balance. I really didn't. It took me a long time to reach where I am right now. Right now, I would feel like me feeling burnt out is actually better than I was before. Because before, I didn't have the right system, I didn't have the right habits, I didn't have the right mentality to create a good work-life balance. So in my opinion, having a good work-life balance, you have to learn how to say no. You have to learn how to say no. You're like, okay, no, I can't do that. You can't always be a yes person. You have to have boundaries and say no. Once you have that in place, the work's not gonna bother you. Your family's not gonna bother you. No one's gonna bother you when you say no. And if they do, that's a red flag. Either run away immediately. Not either, no, run away. Run away from whoever that is and who's like, oh, I don't accept your no. We're all humans. We all deserve our own space. So if you can't accept that we can't do it, then there are so many opportunities out there. If it's a job that's telling you can't say no, find a better one. If it's a friend who's saying no, and they're like, oh, what, why? No, I don't like that no. Then leave that friend. If it's a manager who's like, oh yeah, no, you have to do it. Leave. I have that mentality where it's like, okay, if you can't respect my own personal space, if you can't respect my own boundary, and I'm literally gonna go through burnout if I'm gonna keep saying yes to you, leave. One common example of poor work-life balance is the expectation of long working hours and constant availability, particularly in demanding professions such as law, finance, and healthcare. For instance, lawyers may find themselves working late nights and weekends to meet tight deadlines and client demands, often sacrificing time with family and friends or neglecting their own well-being in the process. Similarly, healthcare professionals such as doctors and nurses may be required to work extended shifts and be on call, leading to chronic fatigue and emotional exhaustion. Moreover, advancements in technology have blurred the boundaries between work and personal life, making it increasingly difficult for individuals to disconnect and recharge outside of working hours. With the proliferation of smartphones, email, and remote work capabilities, many people feel pressured to be constantly accessible and responsive, even during evenings, weekends, and vacations. This constant connectivity can undermine relaxation, restorative sleep, and quality time with loved ones, exacerbating feelings of stress and burnout. Additionally, poor work-life balance can have detrimental effects on relationships and family dynamics. When individuals prioritize work over personal commitments and quality time with their partners, children, or friends, it can lead to feelings of neglect, resentment, and disconnection. For example, a parent who consistently misses their child's school events or family dinners due to work commitments may strain the relationship with their family members and miss out on important milestones and bonding opportunities. So, in summarizing all these points, I believe those 3 points that I've discussed, lack of control, poor work-life balance, lack of recognition and support, are the main factors I believe lead to burnt out. At least these are the factors that have influenced me and has led me to burnt out. So I want you to remember that you should prioritize yourself. Find the right person to talk to. Express your feelings. Don't keep it to yourself. Because I believe poor work-life balance is very common and everyone can find a way to get over that and get through it. But what's important that I think is lacking with everyone is lack of recognition and support. It's a luxury, literally, because you don't know what people's true intentions until you hear their advice to you, until you see how much time they're gonna actually give you. So be careful. I don't want you to be burnt out, and I want you to find the right people, the right community to surround yourself with.